news coming to us from parts unknown. I don't know where you are, Chuck, but we're glad to have you with us. I know you're not on the Twitter, so maybe you didn't see all the reports over the last couple of hours that basically told us what we now know, that Kevin Durant is going to sign in Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving to completely change the face of that roster. What was your first reaction?
Well, I was surprised. I was very surprised that Kevin went to Brooklyn. Obviously, he's not going to play next year, more than likely. But, you know, some of these teams, in my opinion, getting what they deserve. You know, all these teams put all their money, they stunk up the joint trying to get all this free agent cash, and then a job like a Masai Ujiri, who drafted good players and things like that, actually did their job. Imagine that. Then try to poach other players, superstars. I think some of these teams are getting what they deserve. But, hey, KD going to Brooklyn, that's obviously a power ship. It weakens the Warriors. But like I heard you guys talking, it's going to be a year. What they going to do with Kyrie? Because you both had a great argument. They can't just relax and take it easy for a year. But I think that's why they bought in DeAndre. They got some good young players.
In terms of the move from the Warriors, where he won a couple of championships, he was Finals MVP a couple of times. He's got a bunch of business interests in the Bay Area. I hate to play psychologist here, but can you, from the perspective of a great player, kind of put yourself in his head and what might motivate Kevin Durant to leave what seemed like an ideal situation and go to an unproven one in Brooklyn across the country?
It had to be that he was unhappy with some circumstances around the team. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, 100%. He must not have been happy in that situation. You know, there's always been that tension, quote unquote, between him and Draymond. I think, like I say, I think he should have played in that game when he blew out his Achilles. I mean, that might, I don't know. I'm just obviously guessing, but clearly he was unhappy because it was a great situation he was in. So when guys leave a great situation, they must not be happy there, plain and simple.
And he left nearly $80 million in guaranteed money on the table by not taking that fifth year.
I hate when you guys keep saying that because that's absolutely not true.
Well, it is true. You're going to get some of that back in the fifth year, but
of course you're going to get it back.
It's not guaranteed, though. He's coming off a major injury.
Listen. All these guys, I hear these guys. Well, these guys leaving money on the table. No, they're not. They're going to sign another deal.
He'll probably sign another deal. I get your point there. I'm just saying, coming off a major injury, you're talking about guaranteed money.
Yeah, but like I say, he clearly wasn't happy there.
Yeah.
Listen, how much money do you think Kevin Durant gonna make in New York City?
Plenty.
He gonna make plenty of money.
A lot.
Hey, listen, don't forget he's making $30-40 million from Nike. So let's don't act like when these guys leaving money on the table. You notice that the only guys who leave money on the table who got like a $200-300 million deal with a shoe company or going to make more money in endorsements. So I always laugh when I hear these guys, well, he just sacrificed some money. No, he did, and let's be real.
Well, he did leave some on the table. I get your point. He's not going to be hurting. No one's saying that.
But when he signed his next deal, they'll make it up to him.
Yeah. In terms of basketball, 2 years from now, we don't know if Kawhi Leonard's going to be in the Eastern Conference at that point, but how good a team is Brooklyn on paper with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant in the context of the Eastern Conference?
Well, you can't even answer that question because you don't know what Boston's going to do. Danny getting Kemba Walker is a great pickup, but also you don't know what Philly is going to do with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and whoever they sign. I don't think you can just pencil Brooklyn in as the favorite. I mean, think about it. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons aren't going anywhere. So depending on what Elton does with trades and things like that, Philly could be the best team in the East. And you got to give Brad and Danny some credit. Getting Kemba Walker to me is an upgrade. One minute they didn't have a point guard. Now they got Kemba Walker, who's an all-star. But like I say, you're just guessing in 2 years what it's going to be. Because like I say, in the main thing, we don't know how Kevin's going to come back.
Hey, Charles, it's Tom Penn. As a former superstar, how do you feel when you see these dollar amounts thrown out? When you see Damian Lillard at $258 million guaranteed over the 6 years, and I know you've gone through this evolution with players, but how does that react in your gut? How do you feel when you see these big numbers?
no, Tom, we listen. Number one, I'm happy for all the players to make as much as possible because these guys, they're talented, they're terrific, and the NBA, we generate gazillion dollars, TV and things like that. But I will tell you this: I was talking to Larry Bird the other night at the NBA's award show, and we were talking about. I'm so old, Tom. I remember the first time a guy made $1 million. We were going around the locker room high-fiving each other. Because Magic, remember when Magic first signed $1 million a year for 25 years? Me and Dr. J and Mose and all the guys were going around the locker room because we could not believe that an NBA player made $1 million. And now you see guys turning down $30 million to opt out. I'm like, ooh, you turned down $30 million, and then you see they're going to get $40 million. It's amazing. Bless these young guys.
Chuck, Sam Mitchell here. I remember that because I almost lost my mind. Couldn't believe that Magic was going to make $1 million a year, like you said. But my question to you is, Kevin Durant, he can be a little sensitive at times, and the New York media is tough. How do you think he's going to handle dealing with the media in New York? Because now all of a sudden he goes from being one of 4 All-Stars to being one of 2, he and Kyrie. And you can arguably say that once he comes back, he's going to be the face of that Brooklyn franchise. How do you think he's going to handle the New York media?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult. I've already been on the record. I think him and Kyrie are both interesting in New York City because I don't know if either one of them mentally can handle the abuse. Because, clearly, because now we're looking at a 2 to 3 year plan. Because, obviously next year they're going to be all right. And then when Kevin come back, they're going to expect to win the championship. And, that normally it takes them a year when guys have the Achilles injury to come back to being full strength. So now we're looking at 3 years. And, those people in New York are not going to be patient. They're not going to be patient at all. So I think it's going to be difficult. I don't think it's going to be as easy as they make it out to be.
Hey, Chuck, it's Mike Fratello. First of all, I thought you and Shaq did a terrific job on the awards ceremony. That's the first thing. And the next thing is I want to go back to your thing about Magic signing that deal. Do you remember when I was coaching in Atlanta and we had a guy named John Koncak, and Detroit got a little mad at us because they thought that we made an offer on one of their players that, we should have just laid low and not bid on him or get involved. So they turned around, and when his contract was up, they offered him $2 million a year for 4 years. And that was incredible that they would offer him that kind of money. We had to make a decision, match it or not. So we had to keep our center, we felt. So we matched the offer of $2 million a year for 4 years. And at that time, it caused an incredible frenzy around the league because there's a $2 million guy now.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. And when we were because, obviously that sent shockwaves around the NBA. But you know what? I think in retrospect, y'all probably wish you didn't match that contract. That obviously is hindsight, and everybody gets it right in hindsight. But I think that always kind of set the Hawks back in the long run. And I think this is where you see some of these guys, people are giving Michael Jordan a hard time because he's not re-signing Kemba Walker. And I said, I actually got no problem with that because Kemba Walker is a very good player, but I'm not giving a guy $200 million not to make the playoffs.
Kawhi Leonard, Chuck, is the next big domino to fall, and we don't know when that's going to happen. Unlike some of these other deals, including Kyrie Irving, which has now also been reported, Kawhi's situation seems like it's going to take a little longer. Toronto may make the most sense basketball-wise. You could make that argument. He's just coming off a championship. If he wants to go home to L.A., would you steer him toward the Lakers or the Clippers?
Well, listen, I'm not going to steer him anywhere. I hope he stays in Canada. I hope he doesn't go to the Lakers or the Clippers. That's just my personal opinion. I think what he did this year brought back a lot of faith in me as a basketball fan. Guys not trying to stack teams, just being a great player, being a great leader, and leading your team to the championship. When this whole super team started X amount of years ago, I didn't think it was good for the league, and I still don't think it's good for the league. But to have a superstar who doesn't complain, just goes out to do his job, led his team to the championship with a bunch of good players, with a general manager who's probably not getting the credit he deserves, didn't have a top 14 pick on his roster. I think that was one of the great accomplishments in NBA history, and I hope he stays there because I think Masai Ujiri is going to always make them successful.
Talk about the opposite in terms of unsuccessful, Charles. What's your reaction on what all this means for the New York Knicks? Because it appears pretty obvious that the New York Knicks are the big loser of the day and could be the loser of the week in free agency. What are your thoughts?
Well, Tom, you see that I said that earlier. You got all these bad teams who, instead of trying to draft players and make their team better, they try to just make their team awful and create cap space and actually poach other people's stars. I think they're getting what they deserve. Like I say, I hate to beat a dead horse, but you look at the two teams in the finals. You take away KD, all those teams in the finals were built through the draft by good organizations. Yeah, KD went there and changed it, but if you look at the Warriors and the Raptors, they built their team through trades and draft picks. They didn't try to, let's get bad, let's clear cap space, and they'll steal somebody else's stars. So I'm glad these teams are getting their comeuppance. And like I say, I hope it happens to the Clippers also, too. I hope they don't get Kawhi. Because then you have this thing where, hey, let's just clear cap space, and when Giannis comes up or another superstar, let's try to steal somebody else's superstar instead of, like, you know what, how about you, general manager, actually doing your job? And drafting good players.
Nice use of comeuppance, by the way, Chuck. And on our way out, before we let you go, best thing you've done this summer other than attend Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals?
Well, number one, shout out to you and your St. Louis Blues. Matt, I know you grew up there, and I was happy for your St. Louis Blues. I haven't done anything. I'm getting my game ready for Lake Tahoe. I want to peek in Lake Tahoe.
Uh-oh.
You know,
and how's it looking?
Me and Tiger, we only gonna play periodically. So when we get to the majors, our game will peak. So I got about 2 weeks before I head to Lake Tahoe. So I'm just working on my game, and I'm gonna peak in Tahoe this year.
You're pacing yourself for Tahoe.
Yes, I don't want to have like a great round this week. You know, if I have a great round this week, it won't be relevant. So I got to pace myself and just keep working on my game.
I totally get that. That sounds like a solid strategy, Chuck.
Hey, listen, I'm a strategy guy.
I know you are.
Sounds like load management to me.
That's right.
Hey, I've been called a big load before, Mike, so I'm used to that.
Good to talk to you, Chuck. Appreciate you stopping by as always.
Great job tonight. I'm watching. It's going to be interesting because now what's the big thing now is Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
Tobias Harris. Obviously, Kawhi is the biggest dog left.
Yep.
But, you know, I just saw watching, JJ went to the Pelicans. Shout out to David Griffin.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, what a great job he's done in the month he's been on the job.
Incredible turnaround.
I'm in Philly, and everybody's like, uh-oh, we lost J.J. Redick. Now, if they lose Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, this city is going to be on panic.
Yep. The process starts all over then.
Yes, it does.
All right, Charles, good to talk to you.
Okay, guys, thanks for having me.
All right,
The Hall of Famer, Charles.